Amen. Amen. May I take this opportunity, to permission, sir, to acknowledge the presence and welcome the Minister of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Priscilla Schwartz. You are most welcome. And at the same time, in our midst today, I want to take this opportunity also to introduce and welcome the Minister of Gender Affairs, Mrs. Manti Tarawallie. You are most welcome. Again, the Inspector General, the Deputy, and other senior colleagues present, the Fourth Estate. Today, we are here again for another press briefing. And as you can observe for yourself, this is an emergency press briefing today, and that's why we are seeing very, very important personalities present. Our present purpose of being here is to touch on two issues. Update on the ongoing Kadijah sexual penetration and alleged homicide matter, which is currently under investigation by the Criminal Investigation Department and the Family Support Unit. On another leg, we are all aware for the past months that we have been plagued by a global pandemic, the COVID-19 or coronavirus, what they call. The government has made considerable effort in order to contain the spread of this virus. And laudable jobs have been done. But as things are unfolding, it appears COVID-19 will be around with us for some time. Therefore, in order to address life and livelihood issues, His Excellency, the President, retired Dr. Julius Madabiu, has eased some restrictions on the COVID regulations, but that notwithstanding, there must be some measures put in place for all citizens of this country to comply with. And one such area is the wearing of face masks. The Attorney General and our team are here at least to shed light the regulations. Oh, okay, sorry. So, the investigations, sexual penetration, okay, thank you very much. So, I will implore you all to stay focused, pay attention to the issues being discussed here, and you are at liberty at the end of the discussion to ask questions or seek clarifications where necessary. So on that note, it's not a speech-making process here. I want now to call upon the Inspector General of Police to make a general brief remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My lady Attorney General, Minister of Justice, my Minister of Gender, other police officers present, the First Estate, good afternoon. I think what's befitting to talk to you by welcoming you to this session of press briefing, which is being covered by 2 cabinet ministers. They will highlight the investigation procedures for the understanding of people of Sierra Leone, so that aspersions that are being rumored around will be able to rest. The police investigation is being done in line with the law officers department, and they are the legal people that will advise us at the end of the investigation as to what we can do next in terms of preferring charges, if any. They are the legal people. The gender minister will tell you the gender perspective of what they thought is missing, that is affecting especially women and children. Briefly, they will talk that. On that note, I want to welcome all of you for coming, and feel free to interact and focus on issues, not people. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, the Inspector General of Police. He has made it clear. I think a word for a voice is quite sufficient. We have got it. Let's focus on what is being discussed now and direct whatever clear understanding or questions you want to ask towards the subject of discussion. Please, I want us to stay within that limit. May I call upon the Attorney General on the updates?
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first say thank you to the Inspector General of Police for taking the initiative to call this press briefing, which is really, really very needed. And of course, to my colleague Minister for taking time out of her busy schedule to come with me to support the people of Sierra Leone by way of information sharing on this very important issue of the alleged rape and alleged homicide, as you have had mentioned. With me is Principal Legal Advisor at the Attorney General's Office, Mr. Adrian Fisher. He's also, you would know, is one of the chief prosecutors we have in the Law Officers Department. So by way of update from last week, Monday, yes, when we had a group of protesters come to the Office of the Attorney General with their concerns about the alleged rape of a child and the death of that child. Allegedly, at that time, there was a seeming connection between the two. I mentioned that I only learned about that incident on the Sunday before I came to work that Monday. So matters were still unfolding, even as I met with the team of organizers, myself, the IG, and the deputy IG. We met with the organizers and the protesters and stakeholders in my office to discuss the way forward, which we will continue to take by way of creating a task force further down. But for the purposes of my being here today, let me just apologize that I would have to leave. I was here about 1:45, and my time frame is very tight. There are judges being sworn in that I need to attend to. So I just thought, let me just give you where we are at in the Office of the Attorney General on this matter. As you are aware, the matter is under investigation. It's still being investigated. Our business is when those matters are investigated. The allegations, if you hear me, I say allege. I keep saying allege because they are only allegations until we are able to get the evidence that is presented to us that we'll use in court to prove that those allegations are true or those allegations fit the evidence that we provide in court to be able to get the conviction that we want. And that is important. It is vital for us. We are under pressure in terms of wanting to address the issue because society is now crying and screaming. They want something to be done. But legal things do not work that way. Because in order to go to court, I must need the evidence that I have that I'm going to use to prove the case. I don't have to go to court and then I come out, the case is lost, and then everybody loses, the child loses the defense that we must, the protection that we must afford to other people. Because if you go to court, you don't have the evidence that you take. People lose faith in the system if you cannot get the convictions that will make people actually know that the justice system works. So the working of the justice system will require that the investigators are given time to investigate. What we are looking at here currently from the investigatorial perspective of what the information that we are getting from the evidence as it continues to unfold, it's pretty, it's not settled, but we can say that we are looking at penetration of a child. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, we are looking at penetration, which is a complete and separate offense, and evidence that we would require to prove that by law. And then we are now looking at murder, which is also a separate offense that we would look at and require to prove by law. What we are seeing at this moment, again, the way the evidence is coming, we will not go into the evidence here because we are not there yet. But what we are looking at is, if we have said we are looking at murder on one hand and sexual penetration on the other hand, there is a chance, a tendency as the evidence is unfolding, that there is a disconnect between the two in terms of what happened to the child. But again, it's difficult to arrive at any conclusion now as to where we are going, when we will be in court, because we are still waiting for further clarifications and further evidence to be brought to us. The file is not with us yet in the law office. But because this is an important case, we really want it to have the justice that is required. We are working with the police. They are briefing us, they are updating us, because we are the ones that are going to use whatever work they do to prosecute this case in court. So in as much as we are under pressure, we realize that the interest of justice will not be served if we even rush the investigators to bring or find evidence for us. We don't cook evidence. We don't allow people to cook evidence, because cooked evidence don't go to court. It will not stand in the court of law, because it is the law that we use when we go to court. So we are supporting the police, giving them directions as to what we feel we would require them to look for. And therefore, it is a very complex situation that demands a bit of patience for the public, and I can say here, to advise the public to avoid misstatements of what is not suggested. That is why I'm talking to you now, to know what the matter is. I myself have not got the entire stream of evidence that I will need to go to court. You know, so if we keep on putting out there something that we cannot verify, and I will not even be using in court, it could prejudice the public wrongly against the law enforcement, which is not fair. Because as I'm saying, once I get the file and I'm able to now look at it serially, to comb out what is being presented before me, that is when I can even make up my mind to say, we will charge, give the advice, because that is what we do. The police recommend to us, and we will have to advise them to charge on specific offenses and who are the persons that they can charge to court, with whom we can take to court to prove the case and get justice for the deceased child and her family and for the state of Sierra Leone. So we are working, we are on top of this. It's our priority to make sure the evidence that is required, those who are culpable don't hide, we get to them. The police are a bit challenged because when you have these things, you have cover-ups. It adds another dimension to the investigation that is difficult. You know, we have passed the age where we beat people to give us the information that we want or the evidence that we require. Maybe once upon a time when we had not grown so civilized as we are today, which we really want to maintain, that they respect, as the Minister of Justice, every victim, every accused, that's why I keep saying alleged, is presumed innocent until he's proven guilty. So we have passed that age where people will have to force out evidence on people. So even if you are suspicious that there is a cover-up here and there, you will just have to use the very standard operating procedure for eliciting investigation, information or evidence so that you are able to complete the thing. So I want to appeal to you for patience, for circumspection in what you want to put out there in terms of the way things are presented in the social media that are not helpful, that will just incense the public, that will create a dissatisfaction, that will implicate people whom you are not aware of whether or not they are people that are going to be charged or not. And as good Sierra Leoneans, we remain to be vigilant, we remain to support the cause for which, various people have been fighting, and we are still committed to that fight and to take it to different proportions to get the needs that we want. Thank you very much. I will, I don't know if anybody really has questions for me after that, because on the investigation, because I have to go, I have to be at the judge's swearing. Yes. If you don't mind, Minister, if I can just do this so that... Yes, yes.
I work with Democrats in 1921. I work with Democrats in 1921. You made mention of the case. I want to know if the accused is being charged now. And also made mention that...
No, the accused is not being charged.
You are no accused.
There's no accused.
You are saying now that you are trying to investigate to know whether the penetration has any limit to them. You are going to separate these two causes. How essential is the autopsy results in any appropriate investigation that you are doing now? That's the question.
Okay, let's the minister.
Yes, the autopsy report is a very important expert perspective on what happened. So obviously, we will use it for its probity and value, and we will still have to be sure, because what the expert witness is telling you is what he saw on the child. What the expert witness cannot tell you that it is you that did it. Okay? So that is now an investigation. And again, let me say, I am not conducting the investigation. Let me be clear. It is not me that is undertaking the investigation, it's the police. We confer with them to the extent that so that they are appointed, they know what would be required to prove a case. They know that. But because the way things are going, we cannot conclusively say certain things based on what we have, and they need to probe further. Okay? So yes, to your question, the expert witness, the expert evidence is there. The doctor took it, he's a qualified expert, and his own role in the prosecution is only one aspect of the matter. Okay? So it has not, it cannot give us on its own who is liable for doing that. I don't know if I'm making sense. Because it only says somebody died, somebody was raped, but it doesn't tell me who is it, or the autopsy report does not tell me who raped or who killed or who did what to lead to the death of the child. Yes?
If the alleged penetration has anything in the autopsy that's to differentiate whether the autopsy, the alleged penetration has anything to do with death. Can we autopsy prove that?
Yeah, you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the important thing to remember is we cannot discuss the details of the evidence at this stage. What the AG has said,
It's
that's
sufficient. Yeah, it's sufficient.
The sexual offenses or sexual penetration or rape cases have been very good cumbersome in the law courts. What is your mechanism of strategy with regard to the previous strategy under the law officers department for a Saturday trial, as it used to be, to speed the process of sexual offenses? Do you have any mechanism for that?
Maybe you can have now.
Well, I think you can all hear me. There is a difference between when I decide to take a case to court and the process between how that case gets to a judge and where that case will be heard and who is it to determine that case. I don't determine which court the case go to. I just know that it will go to a criminal court if it's a criminal matter. The Chief Justice is the one that assigns the matters, and he has superintends the court. Yes, I'm working with the Honorable Minister. There has been calls to have special courts for rape offenses, but there is a lot more that goes into the whole process of prosecution, from investigation to trial to conviction to jail. It's a whole process. And it is not something that rests with me alone. I am just one part of that process, albeit a very important part, because I can also use my other hat to make sure that things move. There was a need for the offenses that were having the Saturday trials was really targeted at the reduction of the prison overcrowding. Okay? So, and that was because already there were people who were charged, people who are already indicted, who are there, you know them, you don't need any evidence, they are there, so you just can go, you make the courts to sit, which is not the case that we have now, because we are still waiting to get the files that we need to even look at them, to give the advice on what to do, okay? But certainly, if it is something that could be considered, that could be discussed with the Chief Justice, and to see once we are able to put the things that we need to put together, we can be able to move them. I mean, sexual offenses are very difficult things in litigation, in prosecution. I'll just give you one example of a case that we had. I have a coordinator now that is in the law officers department that is specially takes special custody of these matters. And I have law officers all over the regions who report regularly on the prosecutorial speed of how they are addressing these matters. And they from that perspective, it has reduced in terms of how much comes for prosecution and how much should not. But the difficulty is where you have people that are themselves alleged the victims. This is not for this case. This is a special case. We are dealing here with a minor, okay? But I'm just talking about, you're talking about sexual offenses generally, where you take the victim, a 16, 17-year-old who is still underage, and they tell you, it's my mother that told me to say so. He did not do this to me. That is now you are in court. He's a witness in court. You are not supposed, there are rules in our practice. There are some things I cannot tell how to say because she would be saying what she has sworn to testify. What do you do? And the majority of the cases that are before us are really between that age, 14, 15, 16, 17. The case collapses. So that might account for when people say, oh, cases are not prosecuted. A majority of that, you know, it's something that we are still trying to find our heads around it, and that is why we have called for this task force that we are really going to work on, really looking at why these things happen. And it's very good. I'm in very close relationship with the gender minister. She's very hands-on on these things. At least for once, we are collaborating to look at not just the reactive measures, but the institutional capacity. You know, she's giving me the best news that I've had today, that she already has resource for forensic evidence, which is brilliant, especially in sexual offenses. So if we had that, if a girl goes and tells us, oh no, my mother asked me to say this and I'm not, you know that we have something to corroborate that is more effective than and less prejudicial than that. Okay, so but we are doing our best, and I think this time we want to not just focus on trials, but also now building the institutional capacity that is necessary to deal with these offenses. The criminal justice policy.
The name of the victim has been published, has been legal, it's not on paper. I don't know whether it's a new rule.
No, it's not.
And now you are calling for patience. You are advising, especially the gender people who are demonstrating.
Well, I do not know. As I sit here with you, I can tell you the only name that I know that is in that case is the deceased. That's the only name that I know, because maybe it's because of my own model. I don't.
Talking about deceased, she's a minor.
Yes.
Journalists were used to arraign for publishing the name of victims like this. In this case,
A dead victim.
in the case of sexual offenses, I don't know whether it's illegal.
Yeah, no, it is not. It is not. Children should be protected. Victims should be protected. But this is a dead. She's dead. Yeah. So I mean, there's it is not. I would not. Somebody is dead. So sorry. Yes, somebody is dead. The premium you can put, so say you want to protect. What do you want to protect now of our identity? The whole point of not disclosing these things is to protect the identity of the person, you know. So that is why there is a second victim, and we will do everything that is necessary to ensure that whoever that victim is protected, you know, because it is not correct. And we still have to work on the rules, on procedures of evidence, of how we protect them in terms of trials. These are all why we need to sit down institutionally to work on these things so that we can be able to make sense of it in a way that everybody has a responsibility, especially you, the media people. We all have, you probably have more responsibility because you reach the public more than we do. Your writings, your publications reach the public more than we do. So you have more responsibility than we do to preserve the interest of justice, even for the accused and even for the victim. Because until the matter is really finished in court, you know, you do not have, you only have an allegation, you know, so we should be very careful if we want to live in a 21st century country where we believe in people's rights. We have to be able to temper our sentiments. I can understand it's difficult. We are human beings. I mean, I'm a mom. I know what sentiments provoked in me. You know, I struggle to remain with a straight face when dealing with this. But that is the job. You know, because there is a greater interest of justice to protect than to be carried away with sentiments. No case is won by sentiments in the court of law. Okay? So we are going to do everything that we need to do to expedite it.
I think further to what the Honorable Attorney General has said, there are two issues here. Firstly, the disclosure of the identity of the victim could lead to further potential lines of investigation. So you need to remember that. But then most importantly, as members of the Fourth Estate, you need to ensure that the message that is carried on from here is that members of the public need to be cautious about what is posted on social media, simply because it's a live investigation that is ongoing, and there's a potential for damage to this case if people are posting unsubstantiated facts or dressed up as facts in social media. So that is one message that members of the press here can send out to the public. Okay.
Only one question, please.
To me again.
Thank you very much.
Is it to me? Can I?
How long will the investigation take? Because people are very eager to know the outcome. How long it takes?
When it's done, it's done.
Number two, sent me from this. Number two questions. Pandemic, corona. 2 days ago, 3 days ago,
No, I mean, I spoke about the pandemic. Whatever I needed to speak about corona, I spoke at the press conference. I will only address the matter you just raised because I have to go. What was, in fact, the question? The time frame. I cannot guarantee you a time frame, but I can tell you as expeditious as we can get the information that we need. That is what we are working towards. Because if I don't conduct the investigation, I cannot constrain where police leads are. I don't even know where their leads are. So all I can say is that we be patient. We exercise patience. Let us don't be led by the gossips. And, you know, we have a very bad social media where people as information reaches me, because I'm not on social media, forgive me. So as information reaches me, people are saying this is happening, this is happening. I'm shocked at what people are alleging to have happened, you know, and what not to have happened at feuds taking place amongst people. I'm shocked because none of that is before me or remotely, you know. So let us be patient. There's no reason to, you cannot do a good job if you do not mark what you need to achieve, the outcome that you want to achieve from that job. So I am not going to be pressured into to just please, you know, public sentiments and take something to court that I am not convinced I can secure a conviction. Because at the end of the day, when I take it to court, I've always said this, it's out of my hands. All I can do is present my case. You will be sure the accused, whoever the accused person would be in that trial, will have a very good lawyer. Okay? So if we don't get our homework right, we'll have a problem. It is not that once the Attorney General takes a matter to court, you win it. No, it doesn't work that way. Because they too have a right to be defended, and we have the ones who are supposed to prove our case. So because of the nature of which the investigations are going, we are just looking a bit more time to the investigators till they come to us. They have not come back to us yet with the file to say our investigations are concluded. So when they come back to us to say our investigations are concluded, we take that file and we also need to now study it again before we can write to say this is what and what should happen. But what is important that the IG has started, we are not hoping that this will be in a long term, but certainly we want to undertake to have these, if anything new is coming out of, we realize that things are going to go beyond this week, we would want to be here again to have this conversation, because it might be that there's something new that has come up from what we are now taking leads on, so that you know. But I'm really hopeful that we should be able, maybe, I really don't want, because the investigators, in my mind I can think something, but I do not want, that is not my area. I cannot come and commit them to time frames. But what I can tell you, as soon as we get the file, we will be ready to go, because now we are part of seeing what they are looking for, whilst we are working on the back scene. So by the time they finish and come, we'll be ready to go. Thank you. Can I?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
On the COVID.
No, what
The EOC, no, the EOC press conference is happening soon, 3 o'clock.
Yes, okay.
So you can have that there.
I think
Minister, okay.
Betty.
Tell IG. Ask IG, okay. Allow it. Yeah, let my colleague speak. Yes, so that I can go.
Now without wasting time, the other cabinet minister here.
Let me wait
is
for
from the gender.
Let me wait for Minister.
Minister. She will be here. She is here to show our perspective from gender point of view in relation to what the issue we have at hand. So please listen and focus on what she said and direct whatever clarification or questions, bordering on what is being discussed.
Good afternoon, and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Inspector General for inviting me to be here. Mine is going to be very brief. The investigation is going on, as you heard the AG say, so no comment will come from my ministry on the case. What I am going to talk about is what we are doing on sexual and gender-based violence. Now, when you talk about sexual and gender-based violence, you have prevention and you have response. We really do not want to respond, because even if we kill the perpetrator, the crime has already been committed. And in some cases, we'll even, lame the victim or the survivor, or even kill the victim. So we really don't want to go there, but it's our responsibility as a government to put structures in place. So as a result of that, we will put structures in place, and I will talk about that. What we want to concentrate on is prevention. And to prevent, we developed a male involvement strategy. And I'm pleased that I can see a lot of men here. The male involvement strategy is about men and boys as advocates for sexual and gender-based violence prevention. We are selecting we have a criteria for key figures in communities, schools, society in general, that will go out and talk about preventing sexual gender-based violence. We are looking for Okada riders, we are looking for ghetto guys that will go around and talk about sexual-based violence so we can prevent it from happening. That's where we want to go. Other countries like Rwanda, Somalia, they employed the male involvement strategy and they saw a reduction. So we are no different. If we have the men come forward, we have the men change their psyche on what causes gender-based violence or sexual gender-based violence, and they change that, they themselves become advocates, we will see a reduction. At the same time, to ensure prevention, we are developing a parenting strategy. What we are also seeing is some level of neglect. We are seeing young children, 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, on the streets by themselves, late at night. We are seeing in some households an uncle or a male cousin, 20, 30 years of age, bathing consistently a girl of 3, 4, 5. How can that happen? We are seeing, parents, put your child on Okada and say, drop Payanda for me. And no supervision. So there is some level of neglect. And perhaps, to give the benefit of a doubt, they don't know what to do. So if they don't know what to do, we are going to institute parenting training. In collaboration with the Ministry of Social Welfare and other ministries, we will conduct training so that people know that the Child Rights Act gives them responsibility as parents. So when something like this happens, everybody says government, government, government. When you go to the law, the Child Rights Act, it speaks about the responsibility of government. It also speaks about the responsibility of a parent. And so they need to know those responsibilities. That yes, it is moral responsibility, but it is also legal responsibility. That you can be held responsible by law. Charge is a criminal offense for neglecting a child. So we are going to do that. We are going to be paying attention to that. We started and we stopped because of Corona. But now that the restrictions are being lifted, we are going to start again. We start and intensify our efforts across the country. That is for prevention. And we are calling on everybody, all hands on deck, to support us in that education drive. Because it is to educate the community, to educate people that it is wrong. Small people, they pass na me work down there. Knocking way, saying, you know me worth. Me na you man. 10,000, you go buy lunch. That is grooming. You're starting to let the child think that you are a boyfriend or husband or potential partner. And in some cases, that is how they start. And then it ends up in rape. All that needs to go out in the community, that people know that these things are wrong. So that education, that knowledge that perhaps people don't know, and we already know through evidence, through research, we are going to bring that to the public that people know. Now we come to response. When the problem don't be, when the water don't pass the galley, what do we do? Now, we have instituted, we have created a 116 rape hotline. That line is free from every network. AfriCell, Orange, QCell. We are now taking in excess of 300 calls a day. Some are domestic violence, some are rape. We are seeing from the calls that we're taking that close to about 70% are children, not adults, children. So to also respond to some of the challenges that are going on, we are also setting up one-stop centers in every referral hospital. Every referral hospital will have a one-stop center. The first 5 we are launching on the 9th of July, and the president himself is launching it. Within the referral centers, We will provide psychosocial support. We are in partnership with the police, so the police and us will ensure that the crime reports and the statements are done properly. Trainings will be provided to FSU so that that can be done properly, because we know that we hear from the gender advocates that they have problems with how the statements are taken. So training will be done on that. We will also provide treatment, medical treatment, and medical examination, forensic medical examination and treatment. There is talk and there is a lot of requests for forensic lab. Forensic lab is not just for sexual gender-based violence. Forensic lab is for a lot more. And it would take concerted efforts to actually sit down, for all the parties to sit down and decide on the best lab to have. So in the meantime, so that we can have something that we can run with very quickly because of the cases that are coming through, we are looking for DNA testing kits. I have put together a task force comprising of local experts and international experts to look at what we have on the market so that we can get something quickly that we can use for the interim as a short and medium term whilst we are looking at the forensic lab. So hopefully we should have that report by next week, and so we will know the model and the brand that has been recommended for us to buy. The money is set aside for us to buy at least one kit for every one-stop center. So at least when it comes to sexual gender-based violence, we will have more evidence to provide for the court than we already have now. Later on, as a long term, we will look at the forensic lab, which will be, a lab for a lot more cases, not just for sexual gender-based violence. So that's where we are. And in the meantime, to also strengthen sort of the landscape, together with the AG, we are looking at the Child Rights Act. We are looking at reviewing the Child Rights Act so that we incorporate a lot more other things that have taken place, harmonize a few things, for example, like child marriage. One law is saying 16, another law is saying 18, harmonizing so that we can have it as one, 18 and above, and no marriage under 18. So a few of the policies are also in development. Another one, a key one that also I need to let you know about, is the street child policy or street child strategy. We are also looking at that. Some of you will already know that we have 20,000 street children in Sierra Leone. And like I've been saying, nobody is coming to my office and saying, my child is missing, please, Madam Minister, help me look for my child. The children are out there. We do parent tracing, contact tracing, find out who the parents are, and then we reunite them together. We do reunification. And then we bring them together. And then they're there for a bit, and some of them run away again. But no one is saying, help me to look after these children. And yes, as a government, we have a responsibility, but this thing about sexual gender-based violence is everybody's responsibility. As government, we have our responsibility, parents have their responsibility, schools have their responsibility, community has their responsibility. We all need to come together to change behavior. And changing behavior is not a one-day business. We need to consistently educate, to make parents do what they have to do, communities do what they have to do, teachers do what they have to do, and at the same time, us as governments do what we have to do. As AG was saying, structures. There were some structures that we must look at as well. Maybe the child can't talk to the parents, but there has to be somewhere they can go and talk. That's why you have created the 116 line. That you can pick that phone and it's free and you can call. So that somebody, can take it on from there and follow up the case. But all of us have to be mindful. You see something happening in your neighbor's house, don't say no to me business. Report the matter. Because if you don't report the matter, this set of thing is going to happen again. You see something happening, you are looking and you see a child of 4 or 5 years of age is washing outside. In broad daylight, everybody is seeing her in the compound. Parents are around, they're watching the child and everybody is watching. Report some of these things so that we can go to those parents and give them the education that they need. Because that's where it starts, from the evidence that we are getting. No one wakes up one morning and just sees a child and say, I am going to rape the child. No. There's grooming. It takes time. They watch the child, they befriend the child, they do all that sort of thing. So we are all responsible. We are each other's keeper. And as the word says, prevention is better than cure. So let us all try to prevent. That's where I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Gender Minister. It's clear. One question.
No, we'll just allow it.
So, my name is Lucy and it's Kadijah, and I'm reporting for CTM. My question is does the 116 number give or create access justice? Then also, 116, does it give for justice?
Yeah, go on. Continue, yeah.
And also, we have issues with follow-ups and regulatory systems. So, what regulatory systems have been put in place when you will have these one-stop centers in different regions? What regulatory systems? And then also, what safe homes have you thought of? What collaborative efforts are going to be put in place so that we see these things come into place? Because there are much words than action these days, and the implementations of the laws are the problem.
Okay. Thank you. Let me answer. That's a loaded question with so many things in there. So let me break it down bit by bit. The first question is 116. Does the 116 lead to justice? The 116 is the beginning. You call that number, somebody takes your call, and somebody gets you the police, psychosocial support for you to start the beginning of the process. We know that some people, the evidence has shown us that people don't want to go to the police station because you don't want people seeing you go to the police station. So that's why you have created the 116. People don't want to report the matter to mommy. People don't want to report the matter to auntie. So you can get a phone, any network, 116, it will get to somebody that will now take details and will start the process for you. So yes, it will lead because it is the beginning of the process. One-stop centers, the one-stop centers, you asked about the one-stop centers in terms of
regulatory systems, what follow-up measures or monitoring measures.
That's the reason why they have existed, because you are having one in every district. So because you have one in every district, they are seated at the right position to follow up. I am from Falaba. So if we have one in Falaba, anything that happens in Falaba, that one-stop center is the center that will do the follow-up. It's the center that will ensure that they have all the documents, copies of them. So it will be a good thing for them to follow up. It is less cost for the victim to leave their homes to come to the Falaba because they are in Falaba than to come to Freetown. So they have that one-stop center for that.
Because according to the law, I stand to be corrected, victims of sexual violence are supposed to have free medical access to free medical.
It will be free.
In hospitals.
Yes.
And currently, it's not happening.
Well, I don't know about currently. What I am doing now with the one-stop center, we are finished today to train midwives on forensic examination and treatment. They will be providing it in the one-stop center free of charge. Hold me to it if it doesn't happen. If you do investigation and it doesn't happen, hold me to it. Free. Again, safe homes. Every district we have safe homes. We have in Freetown 22 beds, and we also have in all districts. So where it is necessary and the woman and child are willing and they want it, the safe home will be available. What we have created, instead of buildings, we have gone into agreements with good people within the districts, like fostering, that will take in a woman or a child for a certain period whilst things are going on. That same principle of fostering is what we have also employed in every district. So in terms of safe home, we have safe home. Again, quote me and hold me to that.
Thank you, thank you.
Where it be the talk inside the press briefing where the Sierra Leone police call the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. They say it won't follow the public continue for patients as then they work with the police for get the right evidence concerning the matter of the alleged rape for the 5-year-old girl this BNTM will be take place in Freetown. Mina Aisatu Smile say until we meet again to another press conference, I say tata.